Hey girl, hey, it is Wanda from Black Women Travl. Super excited to have today with us a special guest. She's not really a guest. She know where the cups and the plates are and everything. Um, Black Women Travl is a platform made for Black women travelers who want to center their wellness, who are curious travelers, and also who want an online stream of income. We have an annual conference, we have a weekly podcast, and we also have a mastermind that I just started this year. And the mastermind is what is producing this wonderful fruit that we have the opportunity to experience today. So her name is Stacey Ann Forrester, and she's going to share with us this really dope presentation. She has her contact information in her presentation, so stay till the end so you get to see all of that goodness. All right, Stacey Ann, I'll have you present for us, please.
Great, thank you, Wanda. And just let me start sharing my screen. All right. Okay, so this is just an overview of the journey that we're taking today. And as you listen, please only take what resonates and just leave the rest. I'm not here to be prescriptive about your personal routine, but hopefully to inspire you in thinking about it a little bit differently. So before we go further into the presentation, hi, welcome. I'm Stacey Ann, and I'm prioritizing play. So I needed to out myself because I'm definitely not someone who in the past was not able to prioritize play. And as I embarked on this new life as a digital nomad, it was one of my goals for how I want to change, how I want to do things differently. And I think when you do something like this, when you're living a life that's non-traditional, it's definitely an opportunity to really intentionally think about how you want to design your life to suit you, that is outside of the mainstream and outside of the rules and structures that we once knew. So that was a little bit about me. I want to know about you. In terms of integrating work and play, it all starts with you. It all starts with understanding you. So whether it's who you are now, who you've been, and who you're becoming. And so whether you are someone who more easily prioritizes work, like me, or someone who is just really more easily play comes for you, it's important to know whether you're teamwork or team play, because that will influence the kinds of routine that you come up with. In addition to knowing whether you're teamwork or team play, what kind of nomad you are will definitely influence your daily routine. So whether your travel speed is fast or slow, whether you're traveling by yourself or you have a partner, your destination preferences, or you're someone who boycotts winter or you like to mix it up, how you make your money, very key for digital nomads. So the business model, how do you work with clients directly or you a remote worker? So all of this will impact your daily routine. And finally, your why for being nomadic is super crucial and super important to influence your design of that daily routine. So regardless of what kind of digital nomad you are, the digital nomad life tends to encompass these main activities: sleep, health and wellness, work, family and friends, play, and for a special category for us is the travel logistics. So all of these activities are vying for our attention, vying for our time on a daily basis. And so with all these activities, you need a routine, right? There are many benefits for creating a personalized daily routine. And it helps to structure your day. So when you get up in the morning, you kind of have a sense of how your day is going to flow, which really feels great if you're someone who is traveling a lot, changing things up a lot. There's the grounding that a routine brings to your energy. So you feel more embodied, you feel more connected by having that routine. And another benefit is that it ensures daily actions towards your goals. So as digital nomads, we still have goals. We still have things that we want to do. And so a daily routine ensures that you are putting in the time and energy towards the thing that you say you care about. And I believe that the best routine has these three main elements. It's personal to you. We talked about that, super important. It's flexible and adaptable. With the kind of lifestyle that we lead, that we're moving around a lot, we're always adapting to new conditions, new cultures, languages, new people. It's important that a routine is flexible and adaptable, so it's easy to implement. You don't really have to think too much about it. And it's also, it changes. It changes based on where we are. It changes based on how we feel. And that brings me to the last element, works with your energy and emotions. And I think that most of us, it's changing, and we might have some people here who this doesn't apply to, but I believe that the structures that we're leaving from the past, whether you worked in corporate or you just had more of a traditional work lifestyle, that it didn't really give us space for our energy, how we felt, and our emotions. And now I'm hearing people saying they're taking like mental health breaks and things like that, and that's a new thing. And so your routine should really make sure that it flows with your energy and how you feel. With all that said, I also want to communicate how important it is to also go routineless every now and then. And why do I say that? I'm definitely a big proponent of routines because of everything that I've just mentioned. But also, I think we need also to experience that freedom of not having a schedule or not having something that we've already pre-planned or preordained, because it allows for greater creativity. It allows us to try things that we may have not tried before because maybe we're locked into a certain way of doing things. So go ahead and have those days where you just go routineless. Wanda, are we able to take questions? Because I would like to see if there are any questions before I move into the alternative approaches.
Absolutely, we can take questions.
So yeah, I'm just wondering if anyone has any questions before we move on into the alternative approaches.
I will check YouTube and see if anything's happening there.
Okay, great. And I'll just pause for another moment.
Okay, nothing is happening on YouTube, so we're good to go.
All right, so let's talk about some alternative approaches. And when I was putting this presentation together, there's an overall connection to what I've presented here. And I am an astrologer, and I see astrology everywhere. So as we go through the alternative approaches, you'll see that largely everything is really connected to nature here. So we have a seasonal approach, which is largely a solar way of organizing your routine. There's the hormonal approach, which is connected to the transit, the movement of our moon. So it's lunar. And then we have the astrological approach, which encompasses all the different planetary bodies, But with astrology, we speak about it through archetypes and ways of being, ways of expression. So seasonally. So before we had the invention of electricity and the light bulb, most of life revolved around the sun. And the seasonal approach is based on the Earth's movement around the sun. And depending on where you are on the planet, you may or may not have these 4 distinct seasons: winter, spring, summer, and fall. And they have their own feeling, they have their own mood. And so for winter, which is the time of the least amount of daylight, it's largely an internal energy for those three months. And if you think about the season of winter, it's a time when, it's cold, it's dark, nothing is growing, nothing is happening. But below the surface, things are being regenerated in the soil, in the earth. So surfacely, nothing is happening, but internally, there's a lot going on. So winter is that internal season. We usually spend more time indoors in winter, and we're with ourselves more during those times. And then you move into spring. And spring is a transitional season, and it's largely internal and external, so a little bit of both. And when you think about spring, we could have those days where it's sunny and bright, and then there's the next day might be cold and windy, and you're like, wait, is it winter still? So spring has that energy of feeling like you're in transition. You're not fully through winter, but you are. It's just a special own transitional period called spring. And so this is a good time for initiation and coming out of that winter. When you think about that spring season, things are being birthed. So plants are emerging from the soil, baby animals are being born, and animals are coming out of hibernation. So there's a reemergence energy with spring. And that then leads us into summer. And summer is the energy of full bloom. You have the maximum amount of daylight. And here in the Northern Hemisphere, we just had our summer solstice yesterday. So now, the sun has reached its highest point in the sky. And from this point on, every day, the light will slowly decrease. So summer is the full bloom period. It's a very abundant energy. We have access to fruits and vegetables that we don't have access to in the winter. We're likely outside more because there's more daylight. And so summer is also a time that is largely external. We are connecting with family and friends through our summer vacations, our barbecuing, whatever, but we're out. And that is very active external energy. And then we move on into fall. And fall is another transitional season. And it's the movement from the external energy of summer to more of that internal energy. And fall is a preparatory season. It's saying to us winter is coming. And so fall, you are looking at your resources. Do you have enough? Do you have what you need in terms of money, support, as you make the way towards winter? Because fall, you're preparing so that you can make it through the winter. And when you think about fall, there's a lot of dying of trees losing their leaves. Things are just kind of wrapping up, getting ready to enter that winter season. So there is a energy of also letting go, and there's an energy of death to fall. And if you're in a place that doesn't have these distinct 4 seasons, look to see whether it's a rainy season or hot season, or if you're in a place like Colombia that touts to be the eternal spring, I do believe that there's still an energy and flow because the amount of daylight is still changing. So depending on where you are, you might have to observe the flow, the energy of that culture, that community, if you're not sure whether it has these 4 distinct bodies. But with these these 4 different energies of the season, you could really plan a routine that supports the activities in those seasons. So if winter time, definitely make sure that you are taking resting more, that you're having more time to spend with yourself for creativity. Play is going to look a lot different from play in winter versus play in summer. And play in winter might be more close, small groups, close friends. And then in summer, it might be larger groups, being more outside. So with that, we're going to move on to some reflection questions. So with what I just said, I want you to take a few minutes to reflect on a few questions. So what's your favorite season and why? And if you're in a location without 4 distinct seasons, how do you manage the ebbs and flow of the year? Whatever you wrote here will be great information as you think about creating that really well integrated routine. So now I'm going to move on into the hormonal approach. All right, so we know that there are differences in the hormonal cycles of men and women. Men cycle roughly every 24 hours. So their energy from day to day typically remain pretty consistent from one day to the other, while women cycle over a period of 28 days. And that could be a little bit more or less depending on you. And so I'm assuming that most of us here in the audience are women. So we're going to talk about the female cycle. And this is important to know because the cycle, our hormonal cycle, our menstrual cycle is definitely connected to our energy levels and also will influence how we feel on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, month-to-month. So I'm going to briefly take us through the menstrual cycle. So menstruation, usually day 1 of your cycle, it lasts for 3 to 7 days, and energy is usually low here, and the mood is intuitive and sensitive. The follicular phase then is 7 to 10 days. Its energy is starting to increase now. You're starting to have more energy, and the mood is inspired and motivating. Then we get to ovulation, which lasts for 3 to 4 days. Peak energy in your cycle. And the mood here is usually social and attractive. And finally, we have the luteal phase, which lasts from 10 to 14 days. And your energy is starting to decrease at this point. And it's in a very attentive and concluding mood. And I want to point out here, these 4 phases track really well with our 4 seasons. So menstruation is the winter, the follicular phase is the spring, ovulation is the summer, and the luteal phase is the fall. So the energy, our biology as women is connected to nature, is connected to the seasons. And I find it so fascinating how it all is connected, how it all works together. So even within the span of a month, we experience these 4 different energies that we experience over a 365-day period. So with these different energies and moods for the menstrual cycle, I want to talk about syncing with your cycle. It's definitely something that I do, I practice, because I found it really, really helpful for me. And I focus these activities here that I'm sharing with you on like work life, but you could also look at it from all other perspectives here as well. So in terms of the menstruation phase, this is a phase of rest and creativity. You want to be slowing down. You want to be reconnecting to your vision and purpose. So that month that just passed, how are things going? Are you really feeling connected to what you're doing? And how are you wanting to change, or what are you wanting to create as you move forward into the next lunar or menstrual month? Menstruation phase is also a good time for ideation and creative downloads. So you're not doing as much, but you're collecting the ideas, you're collecting your creative impulses for implementation later. So that brings us to the follicular phase. And that's a time of new starts. It's great for launching. It's great for learning new skills, and then putting ideas into action. So again, this phase is like you're reemerging from that, quiet rest internal period with that low energy, and your energy is increasing. So you're wanting to do more. So slowly moving your energy out into the world. And next we have ovulation. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, it's your peak energy time. And it's too bad it only lasts for like 3 to 4 days. But this is a period that the activities in terms of communication are largely really well supported in this phase. So marketing, leading workshops, networking, interviews, and doing videos like YouTube are definitely supported by that ovulation phase. And then we have the luteal phase, which I've connected to these activities as being more administrative. So the luteal phase is when you're apt to find mistakes, like you're more detail oriented during this phase. And so anything involving like editing, bookkeeping, updating your website, or doing your email inbox cleanup. So it's like clearing the decks, preparing again. It's getting you into a fresh place before you begin the new month. So if you are a woman and you are no longer menstruating, one of the guidance that I've picked up from Dr. Christiane Northrup, who is a women's gynecologist and a spiritual teacher in many circles, and she recommends largely to follow the cycles of the moon. So when there's no moon out, menstruation, so that would be this phase. At the time of the new moon, that's the follicular phase. The full moon is ovulation. And then the luteal phase is that phase that the moon starts to wane into decreasing light. So that's what you would do if you are no longer menstruating. Now, time for some reflection. What work activities do you think will flow better for you if you did them during a particular menstrual phase? And which part of your cycle do you tend to prioritize more play? So get connected and reflect on those two questions for yourself. Okay. Before we get into the astrological approaches that I want to share with you today, I want to just check in to see if there are any questions for me.
There have been some comments, and we do have a question. Some of the ladies were talking about their favorite seasons. We have summer. There's something about the overflow of greenery in life. I want it to be summer all the time. Someone likes winter because there's not one in Texas. Another lady says she likes the spring because it's new life and not so hot, and like the beginning of a new relationship full of great possibilities.
Yeah.
So those were the comments. And then there is a question, and she says, Annabella says, I'm planning to travel soon, and I need to make sure I stay on a good routine. I will be working online, and it's so different than clocking in. Suggestions?
That's a great question. And I think when you're just starting out, you haven't gotten into it yet, it's important to give yourself some time to figure that piece out. You're not going to be able from your position, like before your trip, to say, okay, this is going to be my routine. It's definitely one of those things that you have to do trial and error. You have to experiment as you get there because you don't know how a certain place is going to make you feel. But I'm also curious about the time zone difference because that's going to be, if she mentioned she's a remote worker, so she'll be.
Yes, she's going to be working online.
Yeah, so that's that time difference issue depending whether you are remaining in the time zone of your employer and there's an expectation that you are working when everyone else is working, or if the expectation is you're free to work whenever, just as long as you get the work done. Knowing that in advance is going to really help you decide on where you're going to be. My advice is if you're just starting, make it easy on yourself. So if you can, try to stay within the same time zone or as close to it as possible to get your feet wet, to start testing things out. And then if you're feeling more courage, braver, and then you could stray away from that constraint limitation afterwards. But a lot of this we don't really know until we're in it. And there is some pre-planning you could do, but it really will come down to you trying things out when you get to your new location. But thank you for that question. It's a good question.
It's fascinating too how even within the same city, how just a different space can make you feel. Like I've moved homes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just have different urges, in a different space.
Yeah, and it's funny that you would mention that because I've been in Guadalajara now for 2 months, and each month I've been in a different neighborhood. And so my routine has changed, even though I'm in the same city, technically in the same city, but I'm in a different space and I feel differently, or I have access to different things. So I will definitely mix things up, even though, it's the same exact city, but the space really does call for something different.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's important to be flexible and adaptable.
Mm-hmm. Annabella says she's teaching English online and she's going to start in Mexico. She's leaving the U.S. to Mexico and then she's going to go around a bit. So it sounds like she's doing what you suggested, which is, starting somewhere in a close time zone at the very least. Yeah. We did have one more question, if you have time for it.
Yeah.
Miss Melinda said, very interesting tie-in regarding the menstrual and lunar cycle with the 4 seasons. In regards to menopause, can you talk a little bit more about the lunar cycle?
So in terms, I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't want to comment on menopause itself, but in terms of, instead of, if you're not menstruating, following the lunar cycle as a way to give you that same, because the menstrual cycle is largely the same time frame as the lunar cycle, that 28 days. The phases of the moon generally track with those energies, and it's quite fascinating. And for any astrologers, we know this. And so when the moon is the new moon, when you get that first sliver of new light, that's a phase of new beginnings. It's that follicular phase if you are menstruating. And then, slowly, the moon starts, it's waxing. So it's gaining more light. It's getting brighter and brighter until it reaches its fullness. And the full moon period is that ovulation stage. And so if you're not menstruating, you want to align the activities to reflect the same kinds of activities that you would do when you're in that ovulation phase, because there's a lot of energy. The full moon is usually in a very emotional time, but it's also a time when we are likely to be more social. The lunar energy wants to connect. So that full moon stage is a great time to be more social. And then after the full moon, the moon's light starts to decrease. So it's starting to go into its waxing phase. When you're menstruating, that's the luteal phase. But when the moon's light starts to decrease, that's a time when you want to start doing activities that require a lot more attention to detail, a lot more focus, because you're going to be able to see things that comes up a little bit more easier, and you're preparing for that new start again. So it's largely that time that you want to be wrapping things up, clearing the decks. So it's a very much that preparatory phase. And then the dark moon. So when you look outside and there's absolutely no light from the moon, you can't see the moon, that's going to be, for a few days, you're going to be in that dark moon phase. And by the way, you could track these lunar cycles through NASA. I believe if you Google it, lunar cycles NASA, it'll pop up. So you'll know exactly where the moon is in its cycle. And you could use that as your guidepost for your routine, for your more personalized routine if you're not menstruating. If you're menstruating, you just follow your cycle. Was there anything else, Wanda?
Nope, that was it so far.
All right, that was a great question. Thank you. All right, so this last approach is astrological. However, as I mentioned earlier, like all the previous approaches have some connection to nature. And so I see they're all partly astrological. And so for this part, what I'm trying to do here is to share some information that's a little bit easier to grasp. So we're not going into anyone's personal charts, but trying to present information that could be easily grasped and applied broadly. So we're going to keep it very general here. And the first approach that I want to talk about is planetary days, organizing your week. So, did you know that each day of the week is named after a planet? Monday is Moon's Day, Tuesday is Mars' Day, Wednesday, Mercury's Day, Thursday is Jupiter's Day, Friday is Venus's Day, Saturn is Saturn's Day, and then Sunday is the Sun's Day. How perfect. So within those, the naming of each day, we have an invitation to connect with that energy of that planet. And I want to just make sure everyone knows that you don't have to do things on these specific days. This is just sharing that if you do, it's a good energy for it because you're doing lunar things on the Moon's day. You're doing Martian things on the Mars' day. But if it doesn't resonate for you to work in this manner, it's totally okay. You're going to be fine. But again, it's just adding more different information to what you already know so that you could think out the box as you plan your days, your weeks, and your months. So let's just get into it a little bit. Monday and the Moon's Day. This is a great day to focus on the private side of life. Home and family is highly supported on Mondays. And basic self-care practices and nourishment is also a good lunar activities. And it's always been really surprising to me that we start the work week on a Monday. It's like the worst day to start the work week, in my opinion, because you're gonna start that Monday being really tired. Like Moon's Day does not have a ton of energy to it. So I remember those dreaded Mondays from like my previous life and always wondered why. Why it's just one of those days that we typically don't have a ton of energy. And lunar energy is that very nurturing, very much introverted, very much emotional. And so doing things that are more focused on the home and family is highly supported. Then we get into Tuesday, and this is Mars Day. And Mars Day or Tuesday is good on focusing on tackling challenges or ways to be more adventurous. And it's a great day for physical activity. So Mars is a planet that is connected to our will. It's how we use our energy out in the world. Mars in mythology is also connected to the god of war. So fights, battles, anything that is energetic is good on those Tuesdays. I think Tuesday should have been when the actual work week starts. But anyway, Tuesdays largely supports putting your energy in the world. You're going to want to be more active on Tuesday. If you've taken that time on Monday to do those lunar things and find some time to rest, then you're going to be ready to go on Tuesdays. Wednesdays is Mercury's Day. It's a day for all things communicating, writing, planning, analyzing. Good day for paperwork and bookkeeping. So Mercury is the planet that rules communication, short distance travel. So like your buses and your cars, it's all mercurial. Thinking, teaching, learning these are all mercurial activities. Good, supported for Wednesday. But Mercury rules two signs. It rules Gemini and Virgo. And so there's that mercurial or Gemini energy, which is largely, all of things, the communication piece. And then the Mercury that is connected to Virgo is more that internal processing piece. So things like the bookkeeping, the paperwork, anything where you need like really sharp eye to detail, those are going to be really well supported because of Mercury's dual rulership over those two planets, those two signs, sorry. Then we get to Thursday, and Thursday is Jupiter's day, a good day for long distance travel, exploration, anything that expands the mind and provides access to different people and cultures. And Jupiter likes to have fun, so Thursdays is also a good day for fun. Jupiter's day is Jupiter is a planet that we always associate with abundance and good luck. But it's also the planet that's associated with foreign people, foreign things, higher education. So, you want to think about it as Jupiter likes learning through doing. It's not about the knowledge that you get so much in books, but that experiential type of knowing. So largely those kinds of activities are supported for Thursdays. Then we move on into Friday, and Friday is Venus's day. I love Venus's day. Friday is a great day to indulge in beauty, love, music, friendship. It's also great for date nights and spa days. So we talked about self-care when we talked about Mondays and the Moon's day. And I said that was like basic stuff, right? So, making sure you eat well, brushing your hair, shower, like those basic self body care stuff is that lunar in nature. And then Venus is all the extra stuff, all the more indulgent types of like self-care that you want to pamper and beautify yourself. That's definitely supported by Venus's day. And Venus is a planet that is all about attraction. It's about love. It's about connecting to the people we care about. It's about making things harmonious. So that's why music is in here. Friendship is here. So Fridays is just a great day for all things related to Venus. And then Saturday is actually Saturn's day. Work. So I am this is one of my favorite planets, Saturn. And so Saturn is the planet that speaks to us about our process of maturation. It's about maturity, maturing, getting older. It's a Saturnian process. Saturn's about those limitations and boundaries. And Saturn is largely that planet that helps us know that we could do hard things. So on Saturn's day or Saturday, starting hard things, anything that is solitary, because Saturn is also a planet that speaks to being more introverted. It has that energy of the hermit. So anything that's solitary requires focus, long-term projects, the things that, it's not just like a one and done task, but something that will require consistent effort over time, very Saturnian. And building anything physical is also a Saturnian, is also supported by Saturn's day or Saturday. And then finally we have Sunday. And Sunday is very simply the sun's day. It's a great day for personal development, hobbies, creative pursuits, being seen. It's a great day to indulge in what makes you shine. So the sun is that magnificent light in our sky. And in astrology, the sun is your essential self. And so, sun day is a you day. So prioritizing things that really highlight who you are is going to be great for the sun sign. And that's why we talk about hobbies, creative pursuits, and personal development. It's definitely a you. How do you build yourself up? How do you, pour into who you are? Those kinds of activities is what you want to do on Sunday. All right, so the next astrological approach that I want to share is a nice simple one, sun tracking, and it's optimizing your energy. So the sun, we talked about the sun, we talked about seasons, but here we're going to be talking about the sun's movement through the 12 zodiac signs, which it does throughout the year. And so for the sun tracking, you want to think about when the sun is moving through your sign. So that's your birthday month, right? So if you know you are a Taurus, when the sun is moving through the sign of Taurus, and if you don't know when those dates are, it's just think about your birthday, and largely, that month for your birthday is usually a good time for you. Or you could Google this and get the specific dates if you want to be very specific. But again, I wanted to keep this really easy to implement and understand. So just think about your birthday month as being a good time of like high energy for you in general. And then when the sun is moving opposite your natal sun, that's usually the time of year that you have the lowest energy. And so, if you are Taurus sun, when the sun is moving through Scorpio in the fall, that's going to be the time that you typically will feel a dip in your energy. And so you could just count 6 days, not 6 days, but 6 months after your birthday month, and that will generally give you that time of year. Or again, you could just Google for that specific time of year so that you know in your calendar, okay, during Taurus season, I'm just not going to be at my best. And so I will plan accordingly. I will have a routine that fits well with having a lower energy. And during my birthday month, it's the time for me to shine. So I might plan a little bit more extra stuff during that time, things that really serve my solar energy is a good way to think about it. All right, so reflection time. What are your favorite days of the week for work and for play, and why? I do believe that if you didn't know that the days of the week were connected to planetary bodies, you would still have your own personal relationship with that day of the week. Maybe it's connected to your childhood, and you remember growing up as a child on Fridays, you always had takeout on Fridays, and it was a good family time for you. So you have that association with Fridays being family takeout nights. So, having the planetary connections to the days it's really great information, but also I want you to reflect on your own relationship to the days of the weeks and which ones you tend to prefer for your play and which ones you tend to prefer for your work and the reasons behind that. And then finally, how do you typically feel, high, low, or a mix during your birthday months? I've had different clients report different things. Some people get birthday blues. So even though the time that the sun is moving through their sun sign is typically a month of good energy for you, you personally might feel differently because for whatever reason, you might be feeling some birthday blues, or you might be feeling anxious about another year. So it's, astrology is very personal to you, and even with reading some of the astrological energies, the planetary energies, in the ways that we've interpreted them over thousands of years, it's okay for you not to align with those typical ways that we interpret it, because you are a wholly human being and there's other layers to you more than your astrology. So this is a good check-in for you to see, okay, if you don't really feel as high as maybe you should for your birthday month, why is that? And it's also just good information to know about you going forward. I'm going to pause here so that you can take some time to really reflect on these two questions. Okay. So I want to leave you with just some few key takeaways from the discussion that we've been having today, and it's just been a wonderful conversation. So thank you for joining us here today. So embarking on a non-traditional lifestyle is an opportunity for reinvention, and it's an opportunity to be very intentional about the way that you want to live. It's like you have no script to follow now, and now it gets to be about you. Your life gets to be about you. How amazing, right? Integrating work and play starts with you, right? It's about what feels good to you, your personal habits, what you like and don't like. Create a routine, create a way of integrating both that really satisfies all aspects of self. A good routine is personal, flexible, and adaptable, and it works with your energy and emotions. And, as you saw through those alternative approaches that I've shared, a lot of it was connecting to that energy and emotions, like the different moods of the seasons, the different energy levels of the hormonal cycle. So it's really genius that these alternative approaches have already thought about incorporating these two important things that are typically largely forgotten by this mainstream structures of how we used to work. And then finally, look to nature for different approaches to your personal routine. The alternative approaches that I presented here were all connected to nature. And one of the things I like to say why, I really love astrology as a tool is because it reminds us that we're not separate from nature. We're not separate from Mother Earth. And yes, we have technology that makes us have the ability to work 24 hours a day, but we're still part of nature. Like, we all have cycles. Nature has cycles. We too have cycles. And just because we have the ability to work outside of those natural cycles doesn't mean that it's always good for us to do so. So so really look to nature for your inspiration for how to work differently. And with that, I want to thank you so much. This has been really fun for me today to present this. And I will take, if there's any remaining questions, I will take those. But thank you. Thank you for joining.
We have a comment. Miss Annabella says she's more drawn to the weekends during the day, but she tutors late at night. And then we have Sassy Diva JJ, Miss Janet. She says, I found that to be true, Stacey, and thank you so much. So they're just sharing.
Great.
You all make sure to connect with Stacey, and she put her website up. She put her Twitter up. She also has a YouTube channel. So go check out her website, get on her newsletter list, and go subscribe to her YouTube channel. And if you're on Twitter, follow her on Twitter.
Great.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much. That was wonderful. That was very different. I love that. And I've noticed some patterns, just from myself since you put it in that context.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's really what I was hoping with those reflection questions is, there are some natural patterns that we have for ourselves, but we just haven't really took the time to be intentional about them and making sure that we support those natural ways that we are in the world. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad.
Well, thank you for this member-led event for Black Women Travel. You all make sure to connect with Stacey Ann, and we will see you out there in the internet streets.
Thank you.
All right. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.